Hello. So, if you struggle to make decisions, if you struggle to make the small decisions, you're stuck in an internal conflict, you're stuck delaying your decisions, you're indecisive, whatever, this video is for you. I recently had a male CEO reach out to work with me, and I've been working with him for a couple of months, it's multiple companies, and I was like, great, what do you need my help with? And he was like, the biggest thing that I need help with is how can I make small decisions even faster? He was like, I don't have any major big problems. He's just like, I just want to make smaller decisions faster. And I thought, you know what? The biggest thing that people struggle with is decision making. So that's what we're going to go through today. So I want you to think of a time in your life. Remember a time in your life when you had to make a decision. Okay? Just think of a time. And it was like, oh, I need to make a decision between this and that. And it was like, oh, fuck yes. It was like, even if it felt scary, it was like I just know that was right. Think of a time. Okay? My question to you is, how do you know that was right? How do you know that was the right decision? How do you know? First answer, how do you know? And most of you would just be like, because it just felt right. Or you might be like, oh, because I knew that there was a level waiting for me. Or because my back was up against the wall. Or something like that, right? How do you know it was the right decision? How do you know? Okay? So however you know is now your anchor for how you make decisions. Okay, so go back to that time again, and I want you to imagine that your higher self walks into the room. So your future you, whoever that is, your higher self, your best self, whatever, walks into the room in that moment, and as you're about to make that decision, it wasn't you that made that decision, it was your higher self. Just imagine that for a moment. So you have a decision between this and this. If your higher self walked into the room in that very moment and asked you a set of questions to help you make this decision, what would they ask you? What questions would they ask you? Okay? Write it down. So for example, would they go, oh, will this decision move you closer towards your goals? Is this decision something you know you need to do? Does this help you create a better life for yourself, for example? So then you have your set of 3 questions, right? Now, every single decision that you now make, you answer these 3 questions and you check in with that same feeling that decision made you feel. When I ask you, how do you know? You check in with that feeling. Because your mind has a way of making decisions, like a formula for making decisions. It's unconscious. And it gets filtered out through what's aligned, like your values. It gets filtered out through your beliefs, whatever, yada, yada, yada. So that method there, how do you know it's right? And what 3 questions can you ask you is a simple way for you to make decisions. Now, second to that is this client that came to me has always believed in himself because he has built the external evidence to believe in himself, right? So he's put all the work in, he's made all the results, he's worked hard to get what he has. So now he's like, he believes he can do it. However, when something new comes, like an unknown project or an unknown big thing, he slows down on his decision making. And it's because he doesn't have the external evidence there present, which he has relied on to give him the internal belief. So what we do is we take away that external and we create the belief from within that isn't reliant on the external wins, the external success, the thing that you've built. It's an internal confidence that goes, right, you know what? This is the unknown. I need to make this decision and I'm going to make it work. So you go full in, right? So you go full into the unknown and I'm going to step into this because I believe in myself. So the way that you make decisions quicker is to build an internal sense of belief internally that helps you step fully in, that makes this decision a fuck yes, even when you're in the unknown. Because when you're in the unknown, your mind will seek for certainty. It is certain that you can be uncertain in the unknown. You will seek for certainty. You'll try and find evidence, and then you are making a decision based on will it work, won't it work, rather than fuck yeah, this is right, I'm going to make it work because I believe I will. And what you believe is what will happen, right? What you believe is always right, whether it's true or not. So we build this internal belief in him to step into the unknown. So I want you to think about how can you start strengthening that internal belief within you. That's like every time you get to an unknown, every time you get to a grey area that's like, oh, I'm not sure and I've got no real evidence that this is going to work. What part of you do you need to tap into in that moment? What part of you is available for you to tap into in that moment for you to get your whole body on board and go, fuck yeah, we're doing it. Let's dive nose deep, right? So when I ran my first event, I just had this internal knowing that I would sell out before it even happened. And it was like this belief and this conviction. I was like, I know I'll sell this event out. And I sold it out. And I stepped into the unknown because I believed it was done in my mind before it was done externally. Yeah, I didn't wait until I sold a previous event out and then go, right, I've got some interest. So that means I'm going to sell the next one. I didn't have any fucking clue. It's my first event. I was 3 months into starting mindset coaching. And I was like, right, I'm doing it. And I sold it out. Yeah. So how can you create, what part of you do you need to tap into that's going to be like, right, we're going all into the unknown because we have the certainty within ourselves that whatever decision we make, we will make it right. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is if you can't decide between this or that, then you haven't often considered a grey area. So for example, I need to decide between, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? Okay, I can't actually fully decide which one I want to do. So it means that there's a conflict in values. You value part of this, but you also value part of this. So maybe you value the freedom that this option gives you, but maybe you value the certainty that this option gives you. Or maybe you value the stability that this option gives you, but maybe you value the thrill and the excitement that this option gives you, right? So you can't make one decision because you'll be leaving the other one out, but you can't make this decision because you'll be leaving that one out. So you have to ask yourself, what's the grey area? What's the meat in the middle decision that you can make? So is it between this or this? Well, if you can't decide between one or the other, then neither are truly right. So have you considered an alternative, right? Have you considered an alternative? Like, what would be an alternative? Okay, so for example, I had a male client just this morning and he had a decision that he had to make between freedom and commitment. And he was like, if I go down this business model, it's going to require a lot of commitment from me. But if I go down this, it will feel more free, but it feels a bit too like all over the place. Yeah. Neither was appealing to him. If he goes down this, he's not fully committing and having that structure that he needs. But if he goes down this, then he feels like he's tied down and restricted. Okay. So I go to him, okay, what about if we could have freedom and commitment coexist? What would that look like? I said, tell me a time that you've been really committed. And he goes, well, I'm really committed in the gym. Okay, what makes you committed in the gym? And he goes, because I just do what I want to do. I do it my way. I've been committed to years. I've never missed this. Like, I don't miss sessions. I've just been committed for years because I do what I want to do. I go, so okay, you can commit, but this way is so rigid and it's not your commitment, it's what you should do. This is too free and you'll be all over the place, you'll have no structure. So what way do you want to commit? And he was like, I want to do it this way, I want it to be like this, I want to do this way, this will make me feel free. So I said, so you can commit, but you have to have the value of freedom within that commitment in order for you to feel great about committing. A lot of people won't commit to relationships because they're like, oh, I have commitment issues. You don't have commitment issues. You have an issue with what that commitment will make you lose from yourself. So, for example, if a relationship in the past has required you to do this and do this and do this, you now associate commitment with loss of freedom, loss of choice because of what the sacrifice has been in the past, or maybe the hurt that's been in the past. So now you have a negative association between commitment and whatever that is. You don't have an issue with commitment, you have an issue with what you'll lose. So my question to you is, if we didn't have to lose freedom and you could do it your way, what way would that be? Because half the reason you can't make decisions is because it's not your decision. It's an expectation of shoulds, of musts, of this, of that. Yes, it's got to be an element of, there is some right ways to do things and some skills you need to learn. But half the time you can't make decisions because it's not fully right for you. So, for example, I was in LA with my friend and she was like, I want to go a hike tomorrow. Like, she was like, I want to go on a hike. And I went to bed that night and I was like, I'm just not looking forward to tomorrow. To be honest, I don't want to go. I said, I don't want to go on this fucking hike. And I went to sleep and I was like moody as hell because, like, not being funny, I've grown up doing hikes all my life, right? I have done plenty of hikes. I don't want to be dragged on another fucking hike. Like, I just don't want to do it. And I was like, oh, like the picture in my mind of tomorrow going to sleep was just grey. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. So anyway, I was like, what do I want to do? And I was like, do you know what? I want to go shopping and then I want to go and sit in a nice hotel and do some learning. And I was like, how excited will I be now for tomorrow? And I was like, I'll be buzzing. So I had a conversation. I was like, do you mind if I don't come on the hike? Like, I'm not that bothered. And she was like, yeah, do you know what? I actually would like to go on my own. I was like, great, problem solved. So I woke up the next day and I was excited for the day because I did what I wanted to do. Half the reason you can't make decisions is because it's not your decision. You're either doing it to please other people, you do not have expectations of yourself or out of pressure or whatever it is. So sometimes a decision isn't this or that. It's what would a variation of that decision be? Like, what do you definitely not want to do? So I definitely didn't want to go on the hike, but I also didn't want to stay in. Okay, what do I want to do? So how can you make this decision work with your values? So if you value freedom, but you're making this such a rigid decision of this and this and this and this, and it feels heavy and commitment, how can you make it your decision? How can you adjust it so that you can make that decision yours, right? And something that you actually want to do. And this is why it's so important to know your values. What you are driven by is not what the person you're comparing to is driven by. So you might have completely different business models because you're not driven by the same values. If your value is true freedom, location freedom, time freedom, you're not going to have the same business model as someone like who has multiple companies and hundreds of staff. because you wouldn't have that freedom, right? So you've got to understand, what is it that actually drives you? What are you driven by? What do you actually value? And how can you bring those values into your decisions? How can you make decisions based on what you actually value and what you want? And guarantee you feel more confident, you feel more powerful, like, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm doing it. You'll make decisions fast. And the last part of this is, it's how can we let go of the old beliefs that are stopping you from making the decisions or stopping you from self-sabotaging? So with male clients, for example, I tend to see two conflicting parts of them. They have the raw, masculine, dominant, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way, like, persistent self. And then they have the old, what I call little boy self, which is like the fearful self, the people pleaser, the self-sabotager, the procrastinator, the lazy self, whatever it is. Now, when we do an identity shift to get them fully running into this 80% dominant, masculine, raw, I can do anything, true confidence, like they have a mission, they are honed in on that mission, they feel very fulfilled, they're lit up with purpose, with drive, energy, confident. And you know, when you're around a very masculine man, you know what it feels like. It's a different energy. Now, half the reason why you can't make those small decisions, like getting out of bed, for example, or making a small decision on this and that, and because sometimes you fall back into the old self, which is driven by those old patterns of, like, maybe you were called lazy, maybe you were mollycoddled as a kid, maybe you didn't have the freedom as a kid, and now you have this irresponsible part of you that wants to go and have fun and free and be reckless and wild and whatever you want to call it, because your old self is like, we didn't get any of that when we were younger. It could be anything, right? Whatever your old self is, think about it when I'm speaking about it. Whatever your old self that pulls you back into that conflict of, like, I know I should be making this decision, but part of me doesn't want to get out of bed. Part of me doesn't want to do this. Part of me just wants to go and have fun. Part of me wants to do this. Part of me... It's like, what is that old self pulling you back? And a lot of the work that we do is shifting the beliefs around that old self. So is it the boy that feels like he always has to be a student and ask questions and lacks certainty in himself and that confidence in himself, or even the girl, the woman, and you always seek certainty outside yourself, which keeps you learning, keeps you a student, which, yes, you can be a student for as long as you want, but if it's stopping you from becoming the most powerful and confident, decisive version of you, it actually can be a massive hindrance and not that helpful. So we look at what beliefs are keeping you in this old identity of indecision, of overthinking. What are you afraid of? Like, why do you need to seek so much certainty before you take a step? What part of you doesn't allow you to make that new step? What part of you doesn't allow you, or what do you not believe about yourself that would allow you to take that step? Like, do you believe that you're fully capable? Is there still that old part of you that believes you're not fully capable, or that believes you're lazy, or that believes if you be more successful, you'll be judged, or if you make these decisions and you move faster, you're going to lose the comfort? Like, what does this part of you gain that keeps pulling you back, that make these small decisions hard? The small decisions become easier when you fully have that identity shift into that version of you that you know you should be, you know you want to be, you know you're seeing glimpses of, because that version of you just makes decisions fast, like, because it's just who you are. So a lot of the time you'll tell yourself that you need to work harder, or you just need to try harder. But actually what you're doing by working harder and trying harder is you're just trying to outwork this part, because you're fighting this part of you. You wouldn't have to just try and work harder if this part actually just didn't exist. If you were fully this part, you would just work hard, work well, you would attract more, you'd be more confident, more things would be coming to you, you'd focus on what's going well, you'd be decisive, you'd be a leader, you'd be raw, you'd be authentic, whatever that is. And you'd make decisions based off of the extension of that identity. So you wouldn't have to try and work harder. Like, I had another client and he was like, I just need to work harder. And I was like, well, do it then. And he's like, well, that's what I'm trying to do. He's like, on some days I work so fucking hard, I'm on it, like, I'm capable, I'm on fire, I can do anything. And the other days I'm just like, oh, like, pressure, stuck, like, overthinking, like, lacking confidence when the winds go down. Yeah, so if you fall back into your old self when the winds go down, then you're not fully that confident, capable version of you despite the external winds. So it came down to him and he was like, I just need to work harder. And I was like, well, like, do it. Like, you know how to work hard. And he's like, I can't, like, I'm trying. And it's because that old self that believed he wasn't fully capable. He believed he was capable, but there's a part of him that's like, are you really cut out for this? Are you really capable? Like, testing him. And when he was in that, he was in the emotion, the pressure, the frustration, the procrastination, looking for everything that's going wrong. Yeah. Because that old part of him who was still holding on. So your ability to make small decisions and make them fast is due to this part of you that's still holding on to. Because when he's in that, decisions are easy. There's no, oh, what should I do? It's like done, decisions done, right? So what we do is we find out what beliefs you are holding onto around this part of you, and then we break those beliefs through unconscious reprogramming, which you can get the limit of belief breakthrough down below if you want to do that. But like, you want to be making decisions for that version of you that you're becoming. So for that version, but it has to be in alignment with your values. So you can make a decision like, so for example, this client, she was like, I want to get up at 5 a.m. every morning. And I was like, okay, why? And she was like, I don't know, just do it. And I was like, okay, you can get up at 5 a.m. every morning if you want to, but what are you going to do in that time between 5 and 7, for example? She goes, well, I don't know. I was like, well, go and have a think about it. Come back to me with your answers. And she came back 3 hours later. She goes, I've just closed £35,000 in sales. She's like, I don't need to get up earlier. I said, so why did you actually think that? And she was like, because Alex Hormozy said. I was like, you're not the same person as fucking Alex Hormozy. Like, if you are driven and wired in the same way as he is wired, for example, and I'm sure he's wired by maybe a fear of aggression or whatever the fear that he's running away from, the desire that he's running towards, maybe you don't have the same values as him. So trying to work in a similar way to someone that isn't literally wired the same as you, like, you're not maybe like that, maybe you are, and maybe you want to increase your productivity, whatever it is, but it's different for everyone. And it's so important to know what actually drives you. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing it? And how can you start making decisions in alignment with your values? Like why you're doing it? Because the more aligned and like the better you align your decision with your values, the more confident you'll be, the quicker you'll move, the more powerful you'll feel. And you'll have this feeling and a sense of autonomy and authority and certainty in yourself of like, I know why I'm doing this and I know what's right for me. And when you do that, you've seen the people who move like that. They just do whatever the fuck they want and they go so much faster. So it's all about those things that I said, and also rewarding your small decisions. When you've made a decision, it's like building muscles in the gym. It's like trusting yourself. Reward yourself. Oh, great. I'm just make a cognitive note. It doesn't need to be a physical reward. You don't need to feed yourself sweets, but like just be like, oh, I'm really glad I made that decision. That felt really good and whatever. And remember, there's no right decision. There's no right or wrong decision. You make a decision and then you make it right. So for example, me and my mum went away on holiday and we weren't that impressed with the place. And we were like, oh, I'm not really sure about this, whatever. But then we were like, how can we make this right? How can we make this the best holiday? And we had the best time ever, right? Because we decided that you can make a decision and it might not be right because everything's the unknown, right? There's no such thing as a fucking future, is there really? It's just what you're living in now. So you make a decision, your mind will predict based on all the filters and the experience and everything that goes through your value, everything that it filters information through, and you make that decision, and then it's up to you how you make it right. So it's about trusting yourself that when you step into that uncertainty, you step into that unknown, you will make it right. And how can you tap more into that part of you? Okay? But anyway, other than that, I will see you in the next video.